Listen up, because this is the truth no one is telling you. The weaker version of you, it's the only thing standing between you and the life you want. And if you don't kill it now, it will destroy every dream, every goal, and every opportunity you've ever had. You know exactly what I'm talking about. That version of you that hits snooze instead of getting up. That version that makes excuses instead of taking action. That version that keeps you stuck, broke, frustrated. Here's the deal. You are not that person. You're better than that. And today we're going to kill off that weak version of you for good and rebuild the unstoppable, disciplined, fearless version that's been waiting inside you all along. It's time to stop negotiating with your excuses. It's time to make a choice. Are you ready? The first step to transforming your life is identifying and confronting your weaknesses. Most people avoid this because it's uncomfortable. They don't want to admit where they're falling short. So they distract themselves with excuses, blame, and procrastination. But if you're serious about change, you need to face reality. You need to look at yourself in the mirror and be brutally honest about what's holding you back. Weakness doesn't just show up in obvious ways like laziness or lack of discipline. It's deeper than that. It's in the subtle habits that keep you stuck, the hesitation when an opportunity presents itself, the way you talk yourself out of taking risks, the tendency to avoid difficult conversations or situations. Weakness hides in the patterns you've convinced yourself are just who you are. But the truth is those patterns are learned behaviors. And anything that is learned can be unlearned. One of the biggest reasons people fail to change is because they don't want to admit their flaws. They say things like, "That's just how I am," or "I've always been this way." But those are just stories you've repeated so many times that you've started to believe them. You weren't born undisciplined. You weren't born afraid. You weren't born with the habit of quitting when things get hard. Those weaknesses were created over time, and now it's your job to break them down. The only way to do that is to call them out, write them down, say them out loud. Stop sugarcoating your behavior and recognize where you are weak. Do you struggle with follow-through? Do you let fear control your decisions? Are you easily distracted? Do you lack self-control? Be specific. The more clarity you have, the easier it becomes to attack these weaknesses and replace them with strength. Once you've identified them, the next step is to confront them head on. This means doing the exact opposite of what your weaknesses want you to do. If your weakness is procrastination, force yourself to take immediate action. If your weakness is self-doubt, put yourself in situations where you have no choice but to trust yourself. If your weakness is inconsistency, create a plan and commit to it no matter how you feel. The only way to kill your weaknesses is to challenge them daily. This process isn't easy, it's uncomfortable, it's going to push you to the edge of what you think you're capable of. But that's the point. Growth doesn't happen in comfort. Strength isn't built by avoiding difficulty, it's built by running straight into it. You have to be willing to go through the fire, to struggle, to fail, and to get back up stronger. Most people never confront their weaknesses because they don't want to deal with the discomfort of change. They want the results, but they're not willing to go through the process. They look for shortcuts, they wait for motivation, they make excuses about why it's not the right time, and that's exactly why they stay stuck. They refuse to do the hard work required to break free from their old patterns. The good news is that the moment you decide to face your weaknesses, you take back control. You stop being a victim of your own bad habits. You start to rebuild yourself with purpose, with discipline, with strength, but it all starts with a decision. The decision to stop lying to yourself, to stop avoiding the truth, and to take responsibility for the person you've been and the person you are becoming. Excuses are the silent killers of progress. They creep into your mind and convince you that it's okay to stay the same. They tell you that you'll start tomorrow, that you don't have enough time, that you're too tired, too old, too inexperienced. Excuses disguise themselves as logical reasons, making you believe they're valid, but in reality, they're nothing more than a shield you use to protect yourself from discomfort. And if you don't kill them now, they will keep you trapped in the same cycle of mediocrity for the rest of your life. Every time you say, "I don't have time," what you really mean is it's not a priority. Every time you say, "I don't feel motivated," what you're really saying is, "I only take action when I feel like it." Every excuse you make is a decision to stay weak. And that weak version of you is the reason you're not where you want to be. The truth is, people who achieve real success don't rely on motivation, luck, or perfect circumstances. They show up and do the work no matter what. They eliminate excuses from their vocabulary and replace them with discipline. The reason excuses are so dangerous is that they give you permission to quit before you even start. They justify inaction and make you feel comfortable with staying the same. But comfort is the enemy of growth. Every time you make an excuse, you reinforce the habit of avoiding hard things. And the more you avoid hard things, the weaker you become. You condition yourself to settle, to tolerate mediocrity, to accept less than you're capable of. And then one day you wake up and wonder why your life hasn't changed. If you're serious about transformation, you need to recognize when you're making excuses and shut them down immediately. That means catching yourself in the moment, calling yourself out, and making a different choice. It's about holding yourself to a higher standard and refusing to negotiate with weakness. When your mind says, I'm too tired, you respond with, do it anyway. When it says, I don't feel like it, you say, I don't care how I feel. When it tries to convince you to take the easy route, you take the hard one on purpose. Most people wait for the perfect conditions to take action. They tell themselves they'll start when they have more money, when they have more time, when they feel ready, but that day never comes because life doesn't hand you perfect conditions. If you want change, you have to create it. You have to take action despite the obstacles, despite the doubts, despite the discomfort. The moment you stop making excuses, you start making progress. Think about the people you admire, the ones who have built incredible lives, the ones who have achieved success despite all odds. Do you think they had it easy? Do you think they never felt tired, discouraged, or overwhelmed? Of course they did. The difference is they refused to let those feelings dictate their actions. They trained themselves to push through, to stay disciplined, to do what needed to be done no matter what. That's the mindset you need to adopt. Killing excuses isn't about being perfect. It's about being committed. It's about making a decision that no matter what happens, no matter how hard it gets, you will not back down. You will not let your feelings control you. You will not let your circumstances define you, because the moment you do, you hand your power over to something outside of yourself. And that's not an option. Your mindset is the foundation of everything you do. Every action you take, every decision you make, every result you get in life is a direct reflection of the way you think. If your mind is programmed to focus on limitations, you will always find reasons why something won't work. If your mind is programmed for excuses, you will always find a way to justify an action. But if your mind is programmed for growth, discipline, and resilience, nothing will stop you. Most people don't even realize they are running on a negative mental program. They have spent years reinforcing beliefs that keep them stuck. They say things like, I'm just not that type of person, or I've always been this way, as if their identity is fixed. They believe success is for other people, not for them. They tell themselves they aren't smart enough, disciplined enough, or lucky enough, but none of that is true. Those are just outdated programs that need to be deleted. Reprogramming your mindset starts with awareness. You need to pay attention to the thoughts that run through your head every single day. Are they thoughts that empower you or thoughts that weaken you? Do they push you forward or pull you back? Most people let their minds run on autopilot, allowing old fears and doubts to control them without even questioning it. But if you want to change, you need to take control. You need to become intentional about the way you think. Every time you catch yourself thinking a weak thought, you need to replace it with a strong one. When your mind says, I can't do this, you immediately switch it to, I will figure this out. When it says, I don't feel like it, you say, my feelings don't control me. When it tells you to quit, you tell yourself, I am the type of person who never gives up. Over time, this rewires your brain to operate from a place of strength instead of weakness. Another key to reprogramming your mindset is changing what you consume. Your brain is like a sponge. It absorbs everything around it. If you constantly fill it with negativity, fear, and doubt, that's what will shape your reality. If you spend your time listening to people who complain, watching the news that tells you everything is going wrong, and surrounding yourself with people who make excuses, you will start thinking the same way. But if you flood your mind with positive, empowering, and disciplined influences, your mindset will shift. Successful people don't just wake up with an unstoppable mindset, They create it by what they read, what they listen to, and who they associate with. They feed their minds with books that challenge their thinking, with speeches that ignite their drive, with people who inspire them to push harder. They train themselves to think differently, to approach challenges with a mindset of possibility instead of fear. And because they think differently, they act differently. Your thoughts create your reality. If you constantly tell yourself that success is hard, that life is unfair, that you're not capable, you will find evidence to support those beliefs. But if you train yourself to see opportunity instead of obstacles, to focus on solutions instead of problems, to believe in your ability to grow and improve, your entire world changes. It's not magic, it's not luck, it's psychology. The way you think determines the way you live. Discipline is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. It is not motivation, it is not inspiration, and it is definitely not about feeling like it. Discipline is about doing what needs to be done, whether you feel like it or not. Most people fail not because they lack talent, intelligence, or opportunity, but because they lack the discipline to consistently take action. They rely on their emotions to dictate their behavior, and that is why they stay stuck. People wait for motivation to strike before they take action. But motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes. It's easy to feel motivated when everything is exciting, when the results are showing, when things are going well. But the real test is what you do when you don't feel like it. When you're tired, when progress is slow, when you're frustrated and nothing seems to be working. That is when discipline separates the winners from everyone else. Discipline is a habit, and like any habit, it has to be built intentionally. It starts with small decisions. Waking up when your alarm goes off instead of hitting snooze, sticking to your schedule instead of making excuses, following through on your commitments no matter how you feel. These small decisions add up over time and shape your identity. The more disciplined actions you take, the more you see yourself as a disciplined person. And once that identity is in place, everything changes. A disciplined person does not negotiate with their excuses. They do not let their emotions decide their actions. They operate based on commitment, not feelings. When they say they are going to do something, they do it no matter what. They don't allow temporary discomfort to dictate their future. They understand that success is not built in one big moment, but in the small, consistent actions repeated day after day. The hardest part of developing discipline is breaking the cycle of inconsistency. Most people start something, feel excited for a while, then stop when it gets hard. They tell themselves they'll start again next week, next month, next year, but every time they quit, they reinforce the habit of giving up. They train their brain to seek comfort instead of growth. And the more they give in to weakness, the harder it becomes to break free from it. The key to developing unshakable discipline is eliminating the option to quit. There can be no backup plan, no alternative, no easy way out. When you commit to something, you follow through. If you say you're going to work out, you work out. If you say you're going to wake up early, you wake up early. If you say you're going to build something great, you put in the work every single day, whether you feel like it or not. Discipline is a muscle, and the more you use it, the stronger it gets. Most people think discipline is restrictive, but in reality, it is the key to freedom. Without discipline, you are controlled by your emotions, your distractions, and your bad habits. You let circumstances dictate your actions instead of taking control of your life. But when you develop discipline, you take back that control. You no longer need motivation because you have something stronger, a standard for yourself that does not change based on how you feel. Everything you want in life is on the other side of discipline. The body you want, the success you want, the confidence you want, it all comes from consistently showing up and doing the work. The process is simple, but it is not easy, and that is why so few people have what they truly desire. They are willing to do what's convenient, but they are not willing to do what's necessary. Discipline is what separates the people who dream from the people who achieve. The people you surround yourself with shape your mindset, your habits, and ultimately your future. Whether you realize it or not, the energy, beliefs, and behaviors of those around you influence every decision you make. If you are surrounded by people who complain, make excuses, and accept mediocrity, you will naturally start to do the same. If you are surrounded by people who are driven, disciplined, and focused, you will rise to that level. Your environment has the power to either push you forward or pull you down. Many people hold on to relationships that no longer serve them out of loyalty, fear, or comfort. They stay connected to negative influences because it feels familiar. They engage in conversations that drain them and habits that weaken them and relationships that keep them from growing. But if you are serious about rebuilding yourself, you need to make a choice. You need to protect your energy. You need to surround yourself with people who challenge you to be better, who refuse to let you make excuses, who push you to demand more from yourself. Weak environments create weak minds. If you spend your time with people who gossip, who complain about life but never do anything to change it, who blame their circumstances instead of taking responsibility, you will adopt that mindset. You might not even notice it happening at first, but over time, their negativity will seep into your thoughts and you will start seeing the world the same way they do. But when you surround yourself with strong, disciplined individuals, everything shifts. You start thinking bigger. You start expecting more from yourself. You stop making excuses because the people around you don't tolerate them. The hard truth is that not everyone in your life is meant to go with you to the next level. Some people are only meant to be part of your past, not your future. It doesn't mean you don't care about them, but it does mean you recognize that growth requires change. You cannot become the best version of yourself while holding on to relationships that keep you in your old patterns. You have to be willing to let go of anything and anyone that weakens your mindset, even if it's uncomfortable. Building a strong environment means actively seeking out people who align with your vision. This doesn't always mean personal relationships. It can be mentors, books, podcasts, online communities. If you don't have the right people around you in real life, create that environment for yourself. Immerse yourself in the mindset of successful, disciplined individuals. Read their words, listen to their advice, learn from their experiences. Surround yourself with their influence until it becomes your default way of thinking. Your standards are a direct reflection of the people you spend the most time with. If you want higher standards, you need to be around people who already have them. If you want more discipline, you need to be around people who live with discipline. If you want success, you need to be in an environment where success is expected, not the exception. Growth happens when you are forced to level up, when you are constantly pushed outside of your comfort zone, when the people around you make you uncomfortable with staying the same. Most people never make these changes because they are afraid of being alone. They would rather stay in toxic relationships than step into the unknown. But the reality is, temporary isolation is better than being surrounded by people who hold you back. If you have to walk alone for a while, do it. If you have to separate yourself from negativity, do it. The right people will show up when you create the space for them. But first, you have to be willing to remove everything that is keeping you from becoming who you are meant to be. Pain is one of the greatest teachers in life. It forces you to grow, to adapt, to face the truth about who you are and what you're capable of. Most people run from pain. They avoid discomfort. They seek out the easiest path, the one with the least resistance. And in doing so, they rob themselves of the very thing that would make them stronger. Pain is not the enemy, weakness is. And if you are serious about rebuilding yourself, you need to stop avoiding the hard things and start leaning into them. Every moment of struggle, every setback, every failure is an opportunity to become better. But most people don't see it that way. They see pain as a reason to stop. They tell themselves that if something is difficult, it must mean they aren't meant to do it. They take challenges personally instead of seeing them as part of the process. But the people who succeed, the ones who truly transform, are the ones who embrace pain. They understand that growth doesn't happen in comfort. It happens when you are pushed beyond your limits, when you are tested, when you are forced to fight for the person you want to become. Pain exposes weakness. It shows you exactly where you need to improve. When you feel discomfort in the gym, it means your muscles are breaking down so they can rebuild stronger. When you struggle with discipline, it means you have an opportunity to develop more control over your mind. When you face rejection or failure, it means there is a lesson you need to learn. Pain is feedback. It is telling you what needs to change. But if you numb yourself to it, if you avoid it, you will never grow. You will stay the same. You will remain stuck in the version of yourself that you are trying to escape. There is no easy path to success. Every person who has ever achieved greatness has faced extreme pain, extreme setbacks, extreme moments of doubt. The difference is they didn't let that pain break them. They used it as fuel. They took every failure and turned it into a lesson. They took every setback and turned it into an opportunity to come back strong. They refused to let temporary pain define them. Instead, they let it refine them. Pain builds resilience. It conditions your mind to handle stress, to push through challenges, to keep going when everything inside you wants to quit. Most people are mentally weak because they have spent their entire lives avoiding anything that makes them uncomfortable. They never challenge themselves. They never push past their limits. They quit the second something feels hard, and then they wonder why they never change. But the ones who win in life are the ones who train themselves to endure. They get comfortable being uncomfortable. They don't break under pressure. They rise. The mindset shift you need to make is this. Instead of seeing pain as something to escape, start seeing it as the price of transformation. Every time you feel discomfort, every time you struggle, remind yourself that this is part of the process. Growth is supposed to be hard. If it were easy, everyone would do it. The reason most people stay average is because they aren't willing to suffer for the life they want. They aren't willing to pay the price. But if you are willing to endure the pain, to push through the struggle, to face every challenge head on, there is nothing that can stop you. At the end of the day, everything comes down to one thing: your choice. You can choose to stay the same, to hold on to the weak version of yourself, to keep making excuses, avoiding discomfort, and surrounding yourself with people who don't push you to grow. Or you can choose to rebuild. You can choose to step into your power, to eliminate every excuse, to reprogram your mindset, to commit to discipline, to surround yourself with winners, and to embrace the pain that will make you stronger. No one is coming to save you. No one is going to do the work for you. It's on you to make the decision to kill the weak version of yourself once and for all. The version of you that settles. The version of you that quits when it gets hard. The version of you that plays small, that stays in toxic environments, that avoids doing the things that would change your life. That version of you has to go. And the only person who can make that happen is you. There will never be a perfect time to start. There will never be a moment where you suddenly feel ready. The only thing you have is right now. Right now is the moment you decide. Right now is the moment you commit. Right now is the moment you stop negotiating with weakness and start building the strongest, most unstoppable version of yourself. This journey won't be easy. There will be days when you want to quit. Moments when doubt creeps in, times when the old version of you tries to pull you back, but that is exactly when you push harder. That is when you remind yourself why you started. That is when you make the choice that most people are too afraid to make, the choice to keep going no matter what. You have everything you need inside of you: strength, resilience, discipline. It's all there waiting for you to tap into it. Stop waiting. Stop hesitating. Take control of your life and rebuild yourself into the person you were meant to be. Now go out there and do the work. No more excuses. No more delays. You've got this. Goodbye. Take care. And remember, you are always one decision away from changing your life forever.